The African continent is defined by its horizons, vast, sweeping plains of the Serengeti, the endless rhythmic crash of the oceans, and the dense, green heartbeat of the Congo. Yet in Tanzania, the horizon is broken by a singularity. Rising in absolute isolation from the dry savannah scrub, Mount Kilimanjaro stands as a geological paradox. It is the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, a massive snow-capped sentinel watching over the equator. To the local Chagga people, it has always been a place of mystery and reverence, a seat of gods where the realm of man ends and the spirit world begins. To the geographer, it is the highest point in Africa, soaring 5,895 meters or 19,341 feet above sea level. But to the dreamer, Kilimanjaro is the ultimate test of endurance, a beacon that draws thousands of pilgrims every year who seek to touch the sky. Unlike the jagged ranges of the Himalayas or the Andes, formed by the violent collision of tectonic plates, Kilimanjaro is a child of fire. It is a stratovolcano, born of the East African Rift System, a massive fracture in the Earth's crust that is slowly pulling the continent apart. Standing at its base, looking up at the white dome of Kibo shimmering in the tropical heat, one is witnessing not just a mountain, but a monument to the violent forces that shaped our planet millions of years ago. It is a sight that defies logic. Ice in the tropics, a frozen crown atop a sweltering continent. While we speak of Kilimanjaro as a single entity, it is in reality a trinity of volcanic cones. The oldest, Shira, was once a mighty peak in its own right. Eons ago, after a cataclysmic eruption, Shira collapsed into itself, forming a vast, high-altitude plateau. Today, the Shira Plateau is a hauntingly beautiful, wind-swept heath, a testament to the destructive power of volcanic collapse. To the east stands Mwenzi. If Shira is the fallen elder, Mwenzi is the rugged warrior. It is an extinct volcano, its sides eroded by time and weather into a jagged, dark fortress of spires and pinnacles. It is steep, technically difficult, and forbidding. Climbers generally do not scale Mwenzi. They admire its Gothic architecture from a distance, watching the clouds snag on its sharp teeth. And then there is Kibo, the youngest, the highest, and the center of attention. Kibo is the iconic dome, the gentle giant that houses the summit, Uhuru Peak. While Shira and Mwenzi are extinct, Kibo is merely dormant. Deep beneath the ice and rock, the mountain still sleeps. Fumaroles in the crater center still vent gases, a sulfurous reminder that the fire is not gone, merely resting. This geological triad, the collapsed, the eroded, and the dormant, creates a massif that covers an area of nearly 100 kilometers long and 65 kilometers wide, a massive obstruction to the trade winds that creates its own weather systems. Climbing Kilimanjaro is often described as walking from the equator to the North Pole in a matter of days. The mountain is an ecological wonder, hosting 5 distinct climate zones, each with its own flora, fauna, and distinct atmosphere. The journey begins in the cultivation zone, the fertile lower slopes where the Chagga people farm coffee, and bananas in the rich volcanic soil. It is a land of vibrant green, heavy with the scent of wet earth and agriculture. As the elevation rises, the climber enters the montane rainforest. Here, the air becomes thick and humid. Ancient trees draped in bearded moss and ferns create a cathedral-like canopy that filters the sunlight. Colobus monkeys flash their black and white tails through the branches, and the forest floor is a tangle of roots and wildflowers. It is a world of water, mud, and life, where the mountain captures the moisture from the Indian Ocean and traps it in a sponge of vegetation. But the forest gives way abruptly to the heath and moorland zone. The trees shrink, stunted by the wind and the drop in temperature. This is a landscape of aliens. Giant lobelias and groundsels, plants that look like something out of a prehistoric era, dominate the skyline. They have evolved to survive the extreme temperature fluctuations, closing their leaves at night to protect their delicate cores from frost. The mist rolls in heavy here, turning the world into a gray, silent dreamscape, where the climber feels the first pinch of thinner air. Higher still lies the alpine desert. At 4,000 meters, life struggles to take hold. It is a lunar landscape of rock, dust, and intense solar radiation. During the day, the sun burns with ultraviolet intensity. At night, the temperature plummets well below freezing. There is no sound here but the wind and the crunch of boots on gravel. The visual grandeur of the mountain reveals itself fully. The sweeping saddle between Kibo and Mwenzi, a vast flat expanse of high-altitude desert that tests the mind as much as the legs. The history of the mountain is as layered as its geology. For centuries, the Chagga people have lived in its shadow, building intricate irrigation systems and respecting the mountain as a provider of water and life. However, the first recorded ascent to the summit by a non-local was a saga of endurance and failure. In 1889, German geographer Hans Meyer and Austrian mountaineer Ludwig Purtscheller, guided by a local Chagga scout named Ioanni Kinyala-Lawo, finally reached the summit. They had to navigate without modern Gore-Tex or lightweight oxygen tanks. They climbed in heavy wool and leather, hacking steps into the glacial ice that was, at the time, far more extensive than it is today. Meyer's success opened the door to the world. Today, the mountain is a massive economic engine for Tanzania. But the true heroes of the mountain remain the local crew. For every tourist struggling up the slopes with a day pack, there is an army of Tanzanian porters carrying tents, food, water, and emergency gear. They balance heavy loads on their heads and backs, sprinting up trails that leave visitors gasping for breath. They are the guardians of the mountain, singing songs of encouragement. Jambo, Jambo Bwana, masking their own fatigue to lift the spirits of those they guide. Without the porters, the summit of Kilimanjaro would remain a lonely, unreachable place for most. The climb itself is a paradox. It requires no technical mountaineering skills, no ropes, no pitons, no axes. It is a walk-up. Yet this description is deceptively dangerous. The challenge of Kilimanjaro is not the steepness of the rock, but the thinness of the air. As climbers push past 3,000, then 4,000, then 5,000 meters, the oxygen levels drop to roughly 50% of what is available at sea level. The body begins to rebel. Headaches, nausea, and crushing fatigue set in. This is the realm of acute mountain sickness. The only strategy is the local mantra, pull, pull, slowly, slowly. To rush Kilimanjaro is to fail. The mountain demands patience. Climbers must force themselves to walk at a snail's pace, to drink liters of water, and to eat even when their stomachs turn. The nights are the hardest. Sleeping in tents on the rocky slopes, the cold seeps into the bones. The wind howls across the saddle, rattling the nylon walls. It is a mental battle. Doubts creep in during the long, dark hours. Why am I doing this? Can I make it? The camaraderie of the group becomes essential. Strangers become lifelines, sharing stories, medicine, and encouragement in the mess tents. United by a singular, towering goal. The final ascent, the summit push, invariably begins at midnight, under the cover of darkness, with headlamps forming a serpentine line of light up the scree slopes. The climbers begin the assault on Kibo. It is a surreal, almost out-of-body experience. The temperature can drop to minus 15 degrees Celsius. The ground is frozen, loose scree. For every 2 steps up, you slide 1 step back. This is the zombie walk. Conversation dies. The world narrows to the patch of light at your feet and the boots of the person in front of you. The breathing becomes rhythmic, labored, and loud. The darkness seems endless. Gilman's Point, or Stella Point, on the crater rim are the first major milestones. Reaching the rim just as the sun begins to breach the horizon is a spiritual event. The sky turns from bruised purple to burning orange, illuminating the jagged profile of Mawenzi and the sea of clouds below. But the journey is not over. From the rim, it is a final, slow trudge around the crater to Uhuru Peak. The snow crunching underfoot, the glaciers standing like walls of blue glass on either side. These are the famous snows of Kilimanjaro, immortalized by Hemingway. They are vertical cliffs of ice, layered like the rings of a tree, holding the climate history of Africa within their frozen grasp. Standing at the summit, amidst the euphoria of achievement, there is a somber reality that cannot be ignored. The glaciers of Kilimanjaro are dying. Scientists estimate that the ice cap, which has crowned the mountain for nearly 11,700 years, has lost more than 80% of its mass since 1912. The Furtwängler Glacier, once a massive sheet of ice, is now fragmented and thinning. This is the front line of climate change. The combination of rising global temperatures and changing precipitation patterns, specifically drier air, reducing the cloud cover that protects the ice from the sun, is stripping the mountain bare. Predictions vary, but many glaciologists believe that within a few decades, Kilimanjaro will be ice-free. The disappearance of the snows is not just an aesthetic loss, it is a hydrological crisis. The glaciers act as a slow-release water tower for the rivers that feed the ecosystems and populations below. As the ice vanishes, the mountain changes. The White Mountain may soon be white only in memory and photographs. This fragile beauty adds a layer of poignancy to every modern ascent. Climbers today are witnessing the end of an era, seeing a geological feature that future generations may never know. Reaching the wooden sign at Uhuru Peak is a moment of profound release. At 5,895 meters, you are standing on the roof of Africa. The curvature of the earth seems visible. The view stretches for hundreds of miles toward Mount Meru in the west, the plains of Kenya in the north. Tears are common here, a mix of exhaustion, hypoxia, and overwhelming awe. But the mountain is more than just a summit photo. Kilimanjaro transforms those who climb it. It strips away the ego and the noise of modern life, leaving only the rhythm of the breath and the step. It teaches humility in the face of nature's scale. It teaches that the greatest obstacles are overcome not by speed, but by persistence. Pull, pull. As climbers descend, their knees shaking, sliding down the loose scree back toward the thicker air of the rainforest, they carry the mountain with them. They leave footprints that the wind will erase by nightfall, but they take a resilience that lasts a lifetime. Kilimanjaro remains, as it has for millions of years, a silent, majestic testament to the power of the earth, a challenge to the human spirit, and a precious, fleeting jewel of the natural world.